Hello, everyone, and thanks for tuning in today to Canadians with Disabilities and Their Allies. My name is Brent Frain. I'm the host for the show. Today, I have Jeff Leggat joining me from Disability Action of Canada, and I have a special guest also joining me today, and her name is Leona. Leona is going through a housing crisis, and I really encourage everyone to grab a cold drink, glass of water, H2O on the rocks, right? And maybe grab a, I don't know, juice or whatever you have. That's
I had this, but I drank it already.
There we go. And sit back and listen to our very important show today. This is very, very important that I would really encourage everyone to listen to. Because it can affect, and it will affect your life in one way or another in many aspects due to our ongoing housing crisis, our affordability crisis. The list goes on, and so with that being said, I'm gonna start. I love your shirt.
Do you see the reason why I'm wearing this? You remember?
Yes.
You remember the quote from Uncle Owen? With great power comes great responsibility, right? And I think that should be the theme of today's show, that we've got to preach it to the government. With great power comes great responsibility,
Absolutely.
The responsibility is kind of failing really miserably. So to start that off, I'm going to hand it over to Jeff Leggat to start things off, and then we'll move over to Leona. I really want to hear Leona's story, and I think everyone that's listening today or listens to the podcast later on will really, she has an eye-opener story, and I want everyone to really listen carefully. But first of all, what Jeff has to say is also very important too. So hand it over to you, Jeff.
Thanks, Brent. I'm going to build a foundation for Leona's story here. I got to say, Leona, thank you so much for getting us both coverage in Vancouver and BC, CTV News, but also on national news with Sandy Ronaldo. So I got to give you kudos for that. Right now, on subsidized housing, there's a wait list of over 4,500 persons with disabilities waiting for affordable or subsidized housing. This is an extreme crisis in BC. 4,500 people are having to pay market rent or go without having any shelter at all, because all they're given per month is either $1,535 a month if you do have shelter, or $500 less than that, $1,000 a month if you don't have shelter. Because the shelter portion with PWD or disability income support in BC is $500. And if you can't prove you have a place you're living or renting, you don't get that $500. So you're just left on the street with $1,000 a month to try to survive 31 days or 30 days a month. So, Leona, let me pass it over to you.
Yeah, over to you, Leona.
Well, I've had better days. I don't know. It's hard. Like, trying to find market rental when there is no market rental is honestly, like, I don't even know. It's so frustrating. Not only does nobody want to rent to me because I'm on a social program, if I don't have a job reference or if I don't have, pay stubs, they don't want to even look at me. Because there's so many people that are looking for a place, they pass me over without even a second glance,
Leona, can I ask you how much you're getting in subsidies?
I don't get subsidies.
And how much are you getting in support?
Oh, well, I would get $1,535 with my $500 rent. But
yes, okay, good. So I was right on that.
Except the only thing that isn't quite accurate is that you get $75 of your shelter portion when you're homeless. I don't know.
Oh, do you? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
What's that supposed to be for?
Yeah.
I don't know, to buy like a sleeping bag. I don't know.
Oh my God.
That's beyond
But
terrible.
you know, like when I went to apply for housing, I applied a couple of years ago, and when I went to apply, they basically told me there was no housing and they offered me a tent. So, you know, that was a couple of years ago. And
That's
that was when
disgraceful.
you started to see, but that's when you started to see a lot of the tents come out on the street. And I think that the reason why they did it is because the societies or whatever that were trying to help people were getting frustrated that nobody was being seen. So I think they figured if they gave them all tents, they'd be more noticeable on the street.
Oh, so they think of $75 for shelter? I mean, oh my gosh, you couldn't even find anywhere for a full check. Let alone $500 or $75.
No.
No,
there's nothing. Like trying to find anything for even $1,500, there is nothing. Not in Vancouver, for sure. Even as far, and I've gone and looking as far as Hope, and there's a few places for like $1,000 or whatever, but you know, they're hard to come by.
We had,
and there's a lot of competition.
We had Sheila Malcolmson on like a couple weeks ago, Brent, and remember the one big thing that shocked me that she said, and she said this happened. Remember, she said this has happened twice. Remember, she said, could I please ask you and Brent something, because this is really bothering me. She said, this has happened to me twice. She said she's toured a couple of accessible places. I think they were in Vancouver or something, and she said the landlord of two places. She said it happened twice. She said the landlord of these two places says, the reason I can show you this suite is because it's empty, because we can't find anybody to rent it to.
Right.
And I thought, are you kidding me? Like,
no way. I have the hardest time trying to find an accessible unit. Like, I haven't been able to find one to like really save my life.
It blew my mind when I heard that, because
like I was just like, my mind was just blown. Like, it was like,
is it like, really? Like, who would not want to
like
rent?
What is the amount that they're paying? And maybe it's because they have the altered countertops. Like if it's like wheelchair accessible, they usually will alter the countertops.
Well, she said it was subsidized. She said it was subsidized, and she said it was built like with lower countertops for a wheelchair.
Okay, so like I don't know if people have a harder time. Like I don't need that particularly, but I take it.
With over 4,500 people on the wait list with disabilities
sure there's
alone,
people who would take it.
There's no excuse for that to be empty.
Yeah.
But you know, the thing is though, is they get to pick and choose who they want, and they're not choosing the people with disabilities. I'm sure of it. Like I wish there was some way to show that, some way to prove it, but you know, like I don't know.
The BC Housing used to use the medical reasons.
Actually they still do, but it's really hard to come by, and I don't know, I think I might have actually found somebody, because I'm going in to see her Monday. So
good.
I don't know.
Good.
I don't want to blow my chances on that though.
Just hope that it works out that way. But now, because it's such a long waiting list, that BC Housing's looking at, are you fleeing a potential disaster in your home?
I live in a basement that isn't even mine, with no power. How's that?
Yeah, exactly.
I think they're just being picky and choosy on who they want to house and who they don't.
Leona brought up a good point there. Not only do we have to face poverty every single day, government imposed poverty and government imposed lack of housing, we have to face discrimination every single day. And that's a discrimination that's not being addressed. Well, it's being addressed in the workplace. Well, God bless the workplace, but discrimination happens in your home, in renting a place, in going out for dinner.
How are you supposed to hold a job if you don't even have a place to live?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And here's another part of the discrimination part is a lot of landlords too. They're going to look at how much is the whole PWD check in total, and then they're going to look at the rent, and they're going to say, well, we don't want you using all of your support portion to pay the high rent. What are you going to live on?
Yeah.
Well, right, but that's not their choice. Like, let me figure it out myself.
I know.
But they will use that as a reason. Absolutely.
Yeah, they do all the time. Stratas won't rent to me, and I don't make enough for affordable housing because they have a rent cap too, and it's way above what I make.
A lot of these housings are going well over 2,000. Last quote I read was in Vancouver alone, $3,000. A two-bedroom, almost 4,000.
No. Yeah, a one bedroom though, like $3,000. That's double my income.
Yeah.
I had a question that I wish I had asked Sheila when she was on. I wanted to know some numbers, like maybe that would have put her on the spot, but I wanted to know some numbers. I've always just kind of spitballed some numbers, so I don't know if they're accurate or not. But of all of the subsidized housing that's available, let's just talk about subsidized housing. Yeah. How much of that subsidized housing is actually being kept for people with disabilities? I think it's probably about 5 to 7%, probably, right? Or is it higher than that?
That's probably not even that.
I would say in the neighborhood of 5 to 7%, right? I mean,
I don't even know if they even hold anything for people with disabilities.
That's just me. Well, let's just say no, but I'm saying the number of people that are now in subsidized housing that are disabled, that are medically assessed as disabled, as you like to say, Jeff. How much of that subsidized housing is being occupied by people with disabilities now? I think it's probably only 5 to 7%, which means that over 90% are paying market rents.
Yeah.
No. Oh, of disabled people. Oh, for sure.
Of the disabled crowd.
The problem with trying to find market rents, though, on disability with this little amount of money is everybody also knows your income. It's not like you can hide it.
Yes.
And that is a barrier, and that's one of the ideas I came up with the Honorable Sheila Malcolmson the last time that we actually met up in person, Jeff and Sonia and myself, and when I had the minister on my show, I did bring up the topic again, and my idea is to basically extend it over to RGI, rent geared to income, so that all PWD in the province of British Columbia, and also going across any other province in Canada, will get the same treatment all the way across. There's no divide of saying, well, you can have subsidized housing, you can pay high market rent because it's all your choice. Well, is it a choice? Well, no, that's where a person can find rent, because you can't find anything under BC housing umbrella, right?
Yeah.
You extend it right across to everybody. There we go. They can live in the housing that they want to be in. And there's the autonomy, because you can make that choice for yourself rather than what the government wants you to do. And
like rent assistance program, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Why do we have
something
to have...
like that would be good. Having some sort of a rental assistance program, but they cut it off after 12 months. Why is that?
Yeah, they have to basically go through your assessment through Revenue Canada, through CRA. So you're automatically still going to get it. I know that because my mom did that, and
I know a lot of people who've been cut right off it. How come? And they didn't make any more money. They were still disabled.
I'm not quite sure how that program works, but that program could be retooled to cover the PWD who are medically assessed, obviously, and are not going to be all of a sudden magically able-bodied. Other than differently abled, you know what I mean? So that could be a long term. Instead of giving us pittance, $500 a month, and you're on your own, go screw yourself.
Right, but then how did they decide? How did they decide on the subsidy though? Like with the rents jumping up so bloody high, that's just really paying landlords to be greedy.
That's their issue. The government should be doing caps on rentals, anyways. Come on.
But this is why they should be doing caps. Honestly, they should have at least some units in every building of the new builds that they're doing subsidized housing.
Absolutely agree. I love the UK formula where each council, each community has to provide you with council housing.
If you have only people with low income, it makes it harder on everyone. If you have a mix of everybody, it makes it a lot easier for everybody to intermingle and deal with,
you're creating a community, you're creating a great community within a community.
I would love to be in a co-op. I've applied for any co-op I can, but same deal, I'm on disability and I'm homeless, and I don't think they like that. But they assume that because I'm homeless, I must be addicted, or I must be, I must be some sort of, I must have done something to deserve it, you know, like
Yes,
that's,
yes.
There's the stigma and there's the discrimination.
Discrimination, absolutely.
Yeah.
But what I was gonna say too is, and I was just thinking about this the other day, just before the show. I was just like a light bulb went off my head. You know how they have priority seating when you're on a bus that says priority seating for disabled, or if you have a pregnant woman or whatever, they'll say for elderly and disabled, they have a sticker saying this is priority seating. They should have priority housing. So,
Yes.
And if,
they used to.
and
It
if,
used to be
and
priority
if there,
placement.
Yeah, and if there
They
is
did.
if there is no disabled person that wants it, then fine. Then you can have somebody else fill it.
It used to be based on need, right? And
Yeah.
it used to be that they had a criteria that you either had to be disabled, you had to be fleeing abuse, you had to be a single parent, you had to be, like, there were all the barriers, right? And they had a list, and you used to be able to go through it. I worked at a transition house once upon a time. I used to help people apply for housing. It's not the same. Like, that was, 20 something years ago. So not the same. But when you apply, it's not priority placement anymore. They get access to the entire database and they pick and they choose. Because they're picking and choosing, they're not choosing the people who have the highest amount of need, because they're the ones who, I guess, they assess them to be the ones that cause the most problems.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't understand how that works. I don't understand why that's the system, because it should be based on need.
But did you see that article that guy that sorry, his name isn't coming to me. I'm a little bit sorry.
No problem.
Let me check. That the one that was just done, Rebel something. Sorry.
Well, you're doing that. I want to bring up another topic. Disabled people and pets. We talked about this before, Leona, and we have to make this very clear to everybody. If you're disabled,
you know what? I need my dog.
Absolutely.
I don't care what anybody says. I can't give her up. I've had her since birth. Literally, I bottle fed that dog. I've had her for 7 years. She lived in my shirt for the first 3 months of her life.
Yeah.
Like, there is absolutely no way we're, like, attached. And
she's part of your family, Leona. Yeah.
And you know what? It's even more than that. Like, when I'm sick and I can't be around people, like when I have migraines and I'm not doing well, she is the only presence I can tolerate.
Yeah.
But I don't want to be alone. Like, like
absolutely.
Fur therapy is great. Yeah.
So absolutely. Sorry.
The other thing I was going to say related to priority seating or the priority housing idea was one way that the government could ensure that they start giving priority to disabled is, and I've said this before, is to design a ministry of for disabled, right? Have a provincial ministry that is just focused for disabilities.
100%.
Yes.
If they had
sticking us into the same category
it's stupid.
As ministry welfare is not the same thing. Like, it's not the same thing.
It's like we don't deserve all the same shit pile as welfare.
Well, they don't either, but
they don't either. But I'm just saying to lump it all together is.
But we have completely
different needs. Exactly. Yeah.
Like, we all have, like, medical conditions that require different prescriptions. We have different medical aids we need. We have different, things that we require that we need, like, and in order to access those things, when you go to the ministry and you have to stand in line with a whole bunch of people who are not there for the same reasons as you, it makes things so much harder.
Yeah,
and such a hard time it's hard to wait. Like,
because we all know that
trouble standing in these lineups for hours upon hours trying to just get in to speak to somebody because I can't.
I agree.
Much.
And that's how come the stigma is transferred over from welfare to disabled. Not that the stigma for welfare is acceptable in any sense of the word, because it's not. It's based on judgment and discrimination. But you have to say that this disability is separate from welfare. We have to treat both with respect and dignity, but it's separate and completely different issues. Which is why I always say person is medically assessed and designated as disabled. This means there's no if, and, or buts about it. I don't want to hear your judgment or your discrimination. This is a person who has been medically assessed by professionals who have no skin in the game, and they are saying these people are disabled. These Canadians are disabled. There's no reason for judgment based on that.
I have to just reset your window there, Brent. Just give me 1 second. I'm just going to shuffle things around again.
Where'd you go, Brent?
The service provider.
Let me.
Wi-Fi.
Nice.
How do I? Have to. I'm just going to unpin everybody if I can, if it lets me. I have to. I'm going to remove everybody's pin and repin everybody again. You wrecked everything, Brent. I have to fix it all again. Give me 1 second.
Here we go. Martin Gerard is his name. And he did Rule Breakers. And he did a piece on the Ladner Willows.
Okay.
He let me just.
What was the focus about?
BC housing and how they are. Okay, so hold on 1 second. I'm just going to pull up the part because he did a little bit about what they had said to me and about the Ladner Willows because I had inquired about it and they had said that it was under redevelopment.
Okay.
But so apparently with BC housing places or with places that are run by these societies, when these societies get the grants or whatever from BC housing, it makes them mortgage free. So while the mortgage is being paid, they get these subsidies for people so that people can live there for cheap while they pay off the mortgage of this place that is going to be now owned by these societies. But when the societies or when that place comes to term and the mortgage is paid off, now these societies own them outright and they're redeveloping them, but they're like, it's almost like they're renovating all the people who are getting these subsidies in low income, and then they're building up these new buildings, but they're not for low income. And they don't have to be anymore because now they own the property, and that's one of the loopholes of BC housing. And I when I started to read that, I was shocked. I was like, no way. Again,
greed creeps into the equation.
Oh, you know what? This place is so corrupt. Look at all the stuff that happened with Atira, and I've known about that for years since I was working in that field years ago.
Yeah.
People have talked about Atira. And for anybody who doesn't know, the woman who was running Atira was married to the CEO of BC Housing.
Oh, wow.
And they were getting all the grants.
That's not a conflict of interest right there, is it?
Right? So now that they've been found out and they've been audited, they have to pay back some millions of dollars that, they don't even treat their staff well. Yeah. They don't treat the people who live in their buildings well. Their buildings aren't maintained properly. So why are they still getting grants? Because she was married to the CEO. But what about all these other places too? Like, you're not held accountable for how they treat the people who are living in these these housing. And that's not okay either. They should be more run like a co-op.
Yeah,
have the people who live there participate in their community. Yes. Honestly, it helps them to appreciate them more. And if they're required to put in a certain amount of hours maintaining it, they're damn sure going to make sure it stays that way.
And that's part of our focus for getting poverty level financial support is so disabled people in Canada can participate in their community.
Well,
so they're not just living in survival mode, hand to mouth, but they can actually participate and give back to the community. So there's no more dire poverty, and you actually have a chance to give back and enjoy life. So
how are you supposed to participate in anything when you're bedridden because your symptoms are so bad because you're suffering from malnourishment?
Survival mode. It's awful.
It puts more strain on our healthcare system, right? Huge.
Everything costs more.
You put the money back in to the economy, it betters their health, their well-being, their mental health, their physical health. And it's just endless. Just tax the wealthy. I mean, they pay money in this country.
Exactly.
But there just doesn't seem to be any political will. They keep saying that they need to do this, but they're not doing it. They're not taxing them properly.
Well, remember what the big BC Liberal plan when they were in power was just everybody get a job. It will fix all the problems. Just get a job, get a job, get a job. They would just repeat that incessantly, right?
Rhetoric.
And I mean, and I've said this multiple times on the podcast, and if I say it too much, you can tell me to shut up. But I used to work for the Sam Sullivan Foundation, the Disability Foundation.
Oh yeah.
And I was put in charge of trying to find employment for people with disabilities, and so we ran this program or project for like 6 years, and we had some pretty good success. But and one of the great things was all this data was going to be shared and reports and everything. It was all going to be sent to the provincial government, so they could hear the successes. But I also made a big point of explaining what the non-successes were, or where some of the problems were. And one of the things that I kept coming up against was, for example, I gave you the one example, and this is only one example. I could go on with a lot more, but remember, I give the one example of a guy. He really wanted to work. He was in BC housing. He had one neighbor that was threatening to kill him all the time, like legitimately trying to kill him all the time. So BC Housing finally moved him, and they said, okay, we're going to move you this once, but if you ask to move again, we're going to kick you off the system and you're going to be gone. So they moved him, and then he got moved to another housing where it had smelly carpets, like really, really bad smelly carpets, and the landlord didn't want to do anything to fix it. And so here's a guy that, because of the smelly carpets, he was getting insomnia, and of course, because you're on a limited income, he wasn't eating well, he wasn't sleeping well. So you're gonna tell me that a guy that's not eating well, not sleeping well, how are you supposed to hold on a job or even try to find a job when you can't eat properly and you're not sleeping properly? How is that even possible? Or you have somebody that's threatening to kill you in an unsafe housing environment.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
You're in that constant in that mode of fear, of anxiety, knowing what hours can be better for you. I mean, if you go this way or that way, and you're constantly in that survival fear mode where your adrenaline is going higher, right? Yeah. And it really it calls you what's that word? It's flight. It's a flight.
Fight or flight?
Flight or fright. Fright. Or something, or fight.
Gosh, I hope I get into some sort of a... I'm really hoping I get into some sort of a co-op instead of subsidized housing, the way you guys are talking.
Yeah, there's some really bad situations. But I mean, like I was telling Sheila though too, I've seen at least one really good example. I had a friend that she had a place in North Van, and I mean, she was paying. It was subsidized. So she was only paying like $600 a month or something. And I mean, this place was to the nines. Like, it was a 5-star. We're talking nice. 5-star residence.
Yeah.
Now with like everybody else there was like yuppies to the 10s, right? To the 10s, right? And she got it. Like, there was one floor that was designated as subsidized housing. So those places do exist, but they're probably like 1% of that.
That's exactly what it changed. Like, and more of that needs to be put in place, because
Absolutely.
It can be done. I mean, you've got all this Airbnb going on right now too, and a lot of those homes could be actually put back onto the rental stock. I mean, there's huge amount. And kudos to there's a gentleman out there. He's letting our housing minister know that it's not okay, and the premier that it's not okay. We need to collectively get those back onto the rental stock board here, like, so we can get people housed. I mean,
and you can't. A quick point: you can't treat vulnerable, disadvantaged people with disrespect. You can't give homeless people scraps from the table. You have to give them respect. You have to give them a dignity and humane. When we give out food to our street community members, our homeless population in Duncan, we give them the food that we would eat. We don't give them leftover crap from 5 days ago. And that's how we have to shift the whole idea. When you're housing disabled people, you don't give them the shed out back which has rats in it because they're poor. You give them housing that you would want to live in and have respect and dignity and have pride in. And that's how we have to shift the idea across this country.
And even like you said, Jeff, I mean, I made a really flippant comment earlier about, that putting everybody in the same shit pile, but I do realize that, people are on welfare for very good reasons as well.
Yeah.
Like for instance, you have a lot of women that are fleeing domestic violence is a huge one, right?
Yes.
There's also a lot of people who are trying to get on disability and who are denied.
Yes.
There are a lot of people on welfare or income assistance. I usually try to change the rhetoric and the language on it, and I got to let the government know that we need to modernize, change it. We'll call them dignified, like income assistance.
Yes.
Because welfare, I mean, if you say in the streets, say welfare, people, they know that because it's just a name it's a systemic name that was put in once upon a time. And people on welfare, it's temporary. Well, disability, I mean, people are disabled. Their disabilities don't go away.
Yeah, disability is a permanent.
So now they're stuck in that welfare mode where now the government says, you need to be looking for work. Can you prove your address of where you're looking? What's the employer name, phone number?
The thing too, like you go into subsidized housing, as soon as you start working, they take a % of your income. You hit too much income and now you're having to find somewhere else to live again too. And honestly, like for somebody who's disabled, moving is so hard. Like I got to tell you, when I had to move this time, it was not fun. It was painful. It was terrible. Once I move, I don't want to ever have to do it again.
Exactly.
Well,
as soon as my stuff comes out of storage, that's it. Like,
well, that's why you have to give us a dignified rate, which is well enough to, provide all your essentials. And I've learned to. I used to say that your basic needs. No, like I say your essentials, because essentials can be whatever that person's essentials need to be. Like they need to be high enough. And then, but give them enough where they can now pay for your disability-related needs above that.
Exactly. No, absolutely.
And because it's like ongoing expenses. And with people living with 50%, in some cases, I was just reading that early this morning. I can't find it. It was somewhere in my Twitter feed, but somebody said it feels like 80% in poverty. And
it does.
Yes.
I mean, sir, whoever that was that posted out this morning, you're bang on. Like it feels like 80% in the poverty line.
Well, it's got to be more now because with the amount of rents at $3,000 for a 1-bedroom apartment, we get 15 for total income. Yeah. So that if we were to put our support above that, even if it was $4,000 a month, we're definitely we're well below. And that's like scary. That's scary.
Yeah, we're like $2,500 below the poverty line.
Like it's really difficult to find. Like I don't know, it's really difficult to find housing. Honestly, like if I had a driver's license, I'd be getting an RV again. I would have loved. I'd much prefer that because.
I've shared before as well on the podcast. It was quite a few months ago now, but I listened to. I went to church one Sunday and I listened to my pastor and he just said, people with power have the choice to either help or oppress.
Yes.
That was the sermon. Is that people with power have the ability to either help or oppress. And that's exactly what the government's doing right now. They're oppressing people on purpose, deliberately.
Okay, so what about the churches? Like, honestly, like, there's a lot of people who are living in their RVs and they're living in, like, places where they don't have access to any kind of, like, power or anything. Why aren't the churches putting up their parking lots? Like, honestly.
That's a good question.
Like, they're supposed to be helping serve the people, too. They're charities. They get their money tax-free because they are supposed to be doing good. Honestly, with so many homeless people, they should be stepping up a little more, I think.
I'm United Church. I'm a member of the Canadian United Church, and I'm happy that the church is finally getting involved in some activism after all these years. Our church does a lot of outreach to the homeless folk, but I do agree they have to take a stand against the government and say, look, this has to be no more poverty for disabled people. This has to be whatever. but they risk the ability of tax-free status. So they're also kept.
How are they risking the tax-free status by helping the poor?
No, if they go, well, helping the poor, if they challenge the government, and say, look, you have to provide poverty level financial support, you have to provide homelessness or whatever, you have to provide more homes. I understand that part. But if they challenge the government, or the government thinks they're getting too much power or too much whatever, they can take away their tax-free status. As far as providing like places for people to stay, there's insurance issues, and there's the city. They're also up to the city to allow people overnight parking and that kind of stuff. There's lots of little governmental stuff that I understand the churches don't want to, unfortunately, rock the boat. But they should be rocking the boat.
Yeah,
they should be rocking the boat.
Bureaucratic stuff that they don't want to get their hands.
They get involved in politics all the time. Look at them with abortion rights.
Yes.
Well, you know,
if they can come after a woman's body, but they can't support people who are homeless or disabled. That's
there's a lot of there's a lot of misguided. Yeah, no, I agree with you.
Well, you know, this is a little bit different topic though too. Is you and I, Brent, were talking about wondering if lawyers were being hushed by the provincial government too, because you know, Jeff, that I've done like 4 different tribunal things against the government about the clawbacks, right?
Yeah.
I've filed 4 different times on that, and each time I'm basically, and I tried to talk to, you remember the class lawyers that did the whole child clawback back in 2015. Yeah. I was told multiple times by them, it's like, shut up, Neil, go away, Neil, stop talking, Neil. Like literally, I had lawyers telling me, go away, stop talking, we don't want to talk to you.
Yeah, I'm a little confused as why.
Wow. You know,
I'm a little confused.
Human rights lawyer tell me to go and talk to legal aid. Legal aid's not going to help me. Legal aid will only help me if I have a criminal charge. I don't have criminal charges.
I'm a little shocked at the fact that we don't have a class action lawsuit yet. You know what I mean?
Okay, so I'm meeting with somebody on the 21st. I'll talk to them about it.
Yeah, we need to be able to
on the 21st.
We need to be able to put together a class action lawsuit based on poverty level. If the government sets a poverty level and it provides less then there's an issue. There's a legal responsibility to disabled folks.
Well, see, here's the other part that I hear so much, and it doesn't matter which level of government it is. I keep hearing the same line, and I know, Jeff, I mean, we all hear the line where there's more to do. There's more to do. Yeah, we hear you. And what it's telling me is, I remember meeting with, actually, there was a minister we just met with just recently for lunch. And, I remember when he told Sonia and myself, yeah, you know what? When they say there's more to do, what it is that it's like kicking the can down the road. We'll deal with it later, and that's their way of we'll put it off because they don't want to deal with it.
Yeah, there's absolutely no urgency. I'm telling you. Like the people that I go and talk to, they're like, okay, well, we can have a meeting next week. Listen, I'm homeless. I don't want to wait till next week. No, can I see you tomorrow? Like,
that's what I mean. They keep putting it off because they don't want to deal with it. Well,
and then she's like, well, I have a picnic, and I'm like,
oh, boo-hoo.
Right.
Well, I've been
when she said that to me, I was like, wow.
I've been fighting the clawback thing for 10 years.
Yeah.
And it's 10 years and like
retroactive.
It's barely moved the needle. Like I was able to restore my son's portion, the orphan's portion. Yeah. And it's like, you know, I'm happy about that. But and they almost weren't going to give me that too. And I said, well, you're honoring the child support now for divorced parents. Are you telling me that a parent with a dead spouse doesn't qualify? And they weren't going to give it to me initially. Yeah. And then I got I got Sam Sullivan on my side, and I said, this is BS. Like why is a divorced parent able to get support but me with a dead spouse, it's not it's I don't qualify.
That's ridiculous.
And they were originally going to say it's different. It's like what?
I've been through one of those tribunals with the dentist fact that I got a crown and they would cover 0 of the crown, but they would pull the teeth out. They would have covered the extraction. So I said, well, if you're covering the extraction, why don't you put the extraction costs, the $400 whatever to extract the tooth? Why don't you knock that off my bill? I will choose the crown, but I'll take the coverage for the extraction. Yeah. And they said no, because the extraction's not being done. I'm like, well, don't you understand common sense? You're making me pay $2,000 for a choice of going without it, for a choice of a crown. You want to pull my tooth, and you'll cover the cost if you pull it. Just put that towards my crown. So this is like tribunal, and I lost on that one too. It was just
crazy. Like why?
Yeah, but I went through that too, where they kept saying, "Oh well, we have to go with what the fee schedule says. This fee schedule is cheaper to do this." Oh, yeah, but the dentist is a doctor. He looks after the person's health.
Yeah.
So they said, "Doesn't work that way." I said, "How does it not work that way?" I said, "I'm a patient, and do not have the say so." Unfortunately, the government says no, and we're not gonna cover it. So the dentist, okay,
Sorry, Jeff. I was just gonna say, I know you get a lot of crap sometimes about people, saying like, why are you only arguing for poverty level, right? And so you're always talking about baseline, but I just want to steal your baseline for a second, because we can talk about baseline for, I think all of government policy has to have a baseline of, it has to be true, and it has to be based on reality. And when you have policy that is, they're just throwing pink unicorns and saying pink unicorn, pink unicorn, pink unicorn. If it's based on, if I have to show a baseline of truth and reality, but the government can just throw pink unicorns, like it's got to, like the policy has to match reality and truth. If the policy doesn't match reality and truth, then what's the point? We might as well not even have any tribunal. We might as well just burn them all to the ground and say, screw it. Right? I mean,
so
absolutely.
Right?
In negotiation, they always tell you should always ask for more than what you're looking for, because they will always give you less than what you want.
That's one way of looking at it. I'm just trying to get as you know, as we all know, our campaign is, I want to get poverty level across the board, across Canada, not just in BC, but across Canada. Right. I'm even willing to negotiate. If you want to choose MBM, then we'll go with MBM. If you want to choose LICO, then we'll go with LICO. But
I'm
every
sorry,
province,
what are those?
MBM is market basket
measure.
And LICO is low income cutoff table. LICO is a little bit higher than MBM, so by a few thousand a year, it's kind of deal. So if you're
the government wants MBM, it's lesser.
The government wants the cheaper of the two. The government wants to say, well, if we're going to provide poverty level, it has to be equal to MBM. Well, that's fine. MBM right now is 2106 in this province.
Is that recent, or how current is
that's
that?
That's beginning of 2023. It's probably higher now, but that's beginning of 2023 numbers.
And does that fluctuate with the income?
Every year, and it fluctuates with inflation and cost of living increases. So that gets adjusted every year. So 2106 is the low end of MBM right now. So that's what we're trying to say. Why are you providing 1535 when MBM is 2106? Let's get this up there. So, which is why in the fall, Brent and Sonia and Neil and myself will be actively campaigning for an increase of $300 before the end of the year, and that's going to be with Dan Davies and everybody else as well. So we're trying to say, okay, we'll give you a year or two to get it up there. But we need some increases
I don't have
now.
a year or two to wait, man.
Nobody does.
No.
Like I honestly, like, they really need to do something soon, because this is not, like, it's really expensive to be homeless. It is so expensive, especially for somebody like me. I can't eat in. Okay, I have a lot of allergies. Okay, like MCAS is a whole other Anyway, I have allergies, a lot of food allergies, and I can't eat a lot of things that other people eat. And so going into a place where they have free meals are not a thing for me. Besides the crowds, I can't do those either, because, perfume and anyway, all that. So
Yeah.
trying to go into places, it just doesn't work for me. So like, there's no way. And trying to go to food banks are a no. I can't have anything that's processed. I can't have anything that comes from a can or a package because it has preservatives in it and I'm allergic. So, you know, trying to eat when I can't cook is so hard.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, again, and that's why I talk a lot on my show about food banks too, because they don't always work for everybody. Maybe some people it does, but not everybody.
Where do I put my food? I don't have a fridge.
Yeah, like, accessibility is a huge thing.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like that's the whole thing. Like being homeless that's probably, I think, the hardest thing.
Yeah. Where do you put your food? Yeah.
If I can jump in here,
to sleep, but
I'm gonna run, you guys. I gotta jump out of here at 2:45. Leona, thank you so much for getting us national attention. I wish you the best.
Thank you.
Let me know. Keep me up to date on what's going on.
And you're going to be meeting with Pierre on Monday.
We're meeting with Pierre on Monday and Jamie the next Monday. I will give Bonita officer a call today.
Ask him about me.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks, you guys. Have a beautiful day.
Okay. Thank you.
Take care.
Take care.
Bye. Okay. Yeah, we've got about another 15 minutes or so before so we can keep going.
Yeah, for sure. And you know, it's very compelling of what you're going through, Leona. It's so terrible that all the housing that it could so much easily be available to people if the government would just listen. I mean, there's so many empty places right now that people could actually go into.
But there are also so many places that are owned by these developers. Like, look at how many bailouts they've had of all these these big, huge buildings, and they're bailing them out. Honestly, why are you bailing them out? Take them, finish building them, and put in low income rentals. Like, come on. You could have given everybody a home by now.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, they're more concerned about these investors making more money so they can keep investing. But you know what? They're investing in getting more money from the government, and we're suffering, and they're getting our money, and that's not okay.
You know, and a lot of it's also financialization, right? It's squeezing people out of certain parts of the market so that they want the higher up ones that are paying higher up rent, and the people are paying lower amount. They think, oh yeah, we don't want to make that, so we got to push them out, and so we could keep making the higher amount. So they want to have units that are empty too, so they can keep on flipping them over and keep making the higher amount.
The Airbnbs are ridiculous.
Oh, it is. It's becoming it's becoming a major headache. What it's doing too, it's also putting strain on the current rental market that is already strained to the point of no return.
They're saying there's 4,000 places on Airbnb.
Yeah. At least. And
40,000. Sorry, wasn't it?
40,000.
40,000. 40,000 places on Airbnb. There's 4,000 people that are on the housing list that need homes.
Yeah, exactly.
4,000. That's 10%. Seriously, you guys could solve this housing crisis. They could solve this housing crisis if they wanted to. They don't want to. They want to see us suffer. I swear they are targeting disabled people. Same with me.
Well, I mean, like you've said, I mean, poverty costs money. It's a shitload of money. It costs a lot of money to be disabled too. But we all know that the poverty is costing the government billions of dollars.
Okay, if they gave us the money directly instead of giving it to all these organizations they give to that think that they're doing us so much better, they're not. Because so many of us can't even take advantage of those services, and they're using them to prop up poor people, and it's not okay. Give us the money directly. Let us choose what we want to do with our lives, and let us have some autonomy. They're so parental with disabled people; it's disgusting.
Yeah.
All these charities and corporations are all getting all the handouts.
But they're so parental. Like they want to know everything about what you're doing, where you are, what like everything, and it's so invasive. Trying to go into these supported housing, terrible.
I mean,
the way that they treat people is terrible.
I think
the shelter system, no thank you.
I totally agree with you though, Leona, is let people make decisions that are based on what their needs are rather than let corporations or other charities make that decision. Because it's not working.
Yeah,
It's not working.
I don't know if Dan is still in chat, but I remember he left a comment on maybe a couple videos ago or whatever, and we were making a comment about food banks again. And he was saying there's a food bank in Toronto somewhere where the CEO of the food bank is pocketing $450,000 as an annual salary.
Wow.
You know?
See, this is what I need.
That doesn't sound like a charity to me.
When you look at, there was a lady on here who did the math, and I have to appreciate her, but I can't remember her name right now. But it's on my thing. I take I posted her thing, but she did the math, and for somebody who makes $70,000 a year, the amount that they give to somebody who is on disability is 0.0003 cents. Okay, so all of these people that are saying that we're the ones taking their money, look at all this corporate welfare, okay? I'm sorry, but they're getting way more than we are. Mm-hmm. And you get all of these charities that are getting all these millions of dollars, billions of dollars. Honestly, if that money was redirected to us, we'd be doing a hell of a lot better than we are now. That's for damn sure.
When you get these CEOs that are making these billions of dollars of profits, and it's sickening because that money can easily... go back in and imagine.
Yeah, but these are friends with the politicians, so they're the ones that get the money.
I imagine $1 for every millionaire or billionaire. Oh my gosh, how much money could go? Do you
remember when Gordon Campbell was in power, and he did all these run by river power? Remember those run by river power agreements with all these small power companies, and they were all run by like friends of the government. Like there were so many like handouts. It's like here you go, here's a run by river power thing for you, here's a run by river power thing for you, here's a they were just handing out like candy. It's just like wow.
Do you remember I don't know if you remember this, but do you remember when the government one point they made people try to be reassessed?
Yes, to see if that was horrible. Do you still have your missing amputated arm, or did it grow back? Yeah.
Right.
I mean, they did stuff like that. They did stuff like that.
I've never been reassessed, but my disability was more recent, I think. So.
Yeah. It a lot of people had to try to go through that process, and it was tormenting, very agonizing.
God, I'm glad I don't have to do that. Well, I'm going through like.
I remember there was a gentleman, and of course his brother lost his life because of it, and so he's a very strong advocate also because of it, and it's sad, right? Because life doesn't have to be that way, and it was all really what it came down to was numbers. It was just numbers. The government wanted to find ways of saving money just to make themselves look better, but on the backs of the disabled people. The government realized now that they made a huge mistake.
Well, the stupid thing, Brent, is like the government's basically saying is we don't trust a doctor professional opinion.
Yeah. No, they don't. When we go through to apply for disability, you have to get your doctor's letters, but then it goes to an independent board of the government where they assess you again, and they decide whether or not they're going to approve it or not. Your doctor doesn't decide if you're on disability. They do.
Yeah, exactly. And I agree on that, Neil and Leona, because my doctor told me that he says, the government wants to make sure that me as a physician, and I'm registered as the College of Physicians and Surgeons, and he was a surgeon too. He's a doctor. He worked at the hospital. Plus, he had his own clinic. So he was back and forth between that. And he says he was in such a bad mood because he had to go through a reassessment and fill out paperwork. He was swearing and cursing. I never heard the language. I'm not even going to repeat the words that I heard from a distance. He was on the phone. But he says, I've already assessed you. I don't need to assess you again. Why? Did something magically change, Brent? I go, I don't know why I'm even here. Why? He says, I don't know either. He got in a yelling match on the phone in his office, and I was actually told to go have lunch while they figure things out. I said, well, I don't have any extra money. So the receptionist says, here's $20. First you get 10, and she goes, you know what, go and have a good lunch. Here's $20. Go on. Well, I have to repay you. I don't have money. Don't worry about it. It's fine. I mean, that's the problem is that it puts a lot of bureaucracy, paperwork, and red tape on doctors, and now we got a huge doctor shortage. So imagine if they want people to go through this whole process again. Oh no.
Yeah.
But
I'm really lucky that I have a doctor.
The idea that you don't trust doctor opinion too is it's mind blowing to me. It's like, Gordon Campbell sitting up there going, I don't trust doctors, so I'm going to force everybody to get reassessed.
Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy.
Well, that's what the doctor admitted to me, and he says, he says, if you want a lawsuit, I remember in the background in his office here, I got to hear a couple words until his receptionist kind of skirted me off, right? I hear, do you want to, you want an effing lawsuit on your hands? Go for it. I've got top lawyer. Next thing you know, I had two ladies knocking at my door 2 days later after not having income for 3 months. 3 months. I was actually renting a place with my roommate, and it got to a point where my roommate's sister and brother-in-law had said, hey, if you can't pay, like end of this, like within another 2 weeks, 3 weeks, we're going to have to let you go. Like, you're going to have to go. And I have nowhere to go. I'll be homeless. And so, the government put me in a bad spot. It put the homeowners in a bad spot. They needed that money to pay their mortgage. The lady was on maternity leave, so she needed her husband needed that money to pay the mortgage. If they didn't have it, like, I almost cooked them from not having their own place. And and that came to another time, Leona, where there was a place.
That's another thing too. Like, they don't understand that when they affect us, they affect other people around us too, because we are dependent to some degree on other people.
For sure. Yeah. For sure.
Like, I have to stay as close to the city as I can. This is where my family is. And just because they can't house me, it doesn't mean that they don't support me. Like, my mom comes with me to all my medical appointments, and it's always good to have an advocate when you're disabled. Like, having somebody that's known you your whole life, it's really useful.
100%.
And, like, my kids, they do my shopping for me too, like, well, such as it is, not right now, but normally I don't want to leave the city. Like, it's hard. When I was out in Hope, it was so far away, but it was the only transition house that could house me. The only one. Like, I checked in every city from Vancouver to Hope, and 15 cities, and I had teams helping me, calling these places, looking for places. The only one that I could find space that was pet friendly, that was wheelchair accessible, was in Hope.
Wow.
And now there's nothing.
But we had that $300 supplement that made a change in people's lives for the better in so many ways during COVID, the COVID supplement.
Yeah, and then they took it away.
Yeah, and the government, they took it away, and then they decided, well, we're going to get back 50% plus 25. So they get back 175 of it. Then that was October. I keep saying October. January 28th of 2021. And I remember that date because I was living in Langley. Sonia and myself, we had a brand new place we saw getting built, and we said, well, wouldn't it be nice to live in there? I said, yeah, right. And she says, well, we can. I go, why? I said, just because we got the $300. So they're not gonna let us keep it. They're gonna take it away. She goes, no, they wouldn't do that. I go, yeah, they would. You watch. She goes, they would not take it away. That would be very irresponsible and mean spirited to take it away. So I went to the ministry's office, and I said, are they going to take this money away? She goes, Brent, and she printed out a form, Leona. She printed out a form. This is how much you get. This is your entitlement, right, of what you get. Give this to your landlord. This is what you're going to be having going forward. And you know what the amazing part was? It was $1,515 at the time. And I said, what? She goes, this is the amount. So you give it to your landlord. So I give it to my landlord. She goes, okay, yeah, I'll rent to you. I'll rent to you and Sonia, no problem. I said, okay. She based it upon the $300 because the ministry's office said they won't take it away. They're going to keep it going. And so I was told, okay. So of course, the minister, I've had him on my show a few times now, the previous predecessor, and he had said that it was always supposed to be temporary. But I said, well, what do? You give something temporary and then you take it away. It's like giving candy to a little kid, and then you take it away and you say, there you go. It tastes good, doesn't it? Yeah. Oh, can't have any more.
It's like somebody that pulls out your chair just before you go to sit down, right?
Yeah. It would be nice sitting down that chair, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll take it away. It's not so nice anymore.
We've sorry, Brent, we've got to wrap up a little bit here, so
Okay.
we should have closing comments. Yeah.
Anyway, we just my closing comment is on that part, and then I'm gonna do my normal closing comment. Is we had the media come and interview us, Sonia and myself, and say what would happen if they took this $300 away. Sonia said to the media, "What did you say, Sonia?
We have to move.
We would be homeless. We would have to move, or we'd be homeless." So Sonia quickly found a place in Victoria, Leona, and we did. And it was a lot less. Sorry, what was that?
By accident.
By accident, she came across the place anyway. So here we are, not the place we wanted to be. My hometown is in Langley. I want to move back to Langley. But anyway, long story short is we're still working on that. And I'm going to keep advocating, Leona, trying to hold the government to account, make people understand that how not being housed is not acceptable in the province of British Columbia or anywhere in this country. Jeff and Sonia and Neil and myself will do everything we can to keep holding the government to account. Nobody should be homeless in this country. And so I want to get you to come back on very soon. We'll get Neil to schedule you in. I want to thank you very much for coming on today and talking about this very important topic about the housing crisis and what you're going through. And it's just not right. Right that you should have to be homeless and only given $500 for support for your shelter. I'm going to say this very quickly because I know Neil wants to wrap that up the show here. Is I'm advocating to get rid of the shelter portion, Leona. Scrap the shelter. Give everybody the flat amount. So if you have a temporary place to live, you're still going to get your full check.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
that would definitely be a little bit better. I think that the only reason why they do it is because the BC housing is 30% of your income.
Yeah. But they got to change
And I
it.
think that that's why they also raised it up to $500 because that makes it like a third of our income, right?
Yeah. They got to change that though, because if they want people to be housed in market housing, they're going to have to do that. Or if not, go give everybody RGI. So they have a choice. It's either increase the rates or give everybody RGI, and we're going to corner them in on that. We're going to keep advocating, like Jeff mentioned, this fall. We're going to advocate to get that $300 back quickly, pronto.
I think we really need to start putting some more pressure on them somehow. I'm not really sure how to do that, but
well,
there's got to be something.
Yeah, I'll be keeping you in the loop on this too. I'd love to have you come back on, maybe in a week or 2 weeks, and we'll get whenever you would like, and we'll get Neil to reach out. We'll get you back on as a continuation.
Maybe
All
on camera next time.
I appreciate it. Maybe.
We'll
see where I am. We'll see where I am.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you so much, Leona, for coming on today.
Thanks, Leona.
All right. Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah.
It was very nice to be part of this.
Yeah.
I will talk to you soon. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone, for tuning in today. And please subscribe to Neil's YouTube channel. Subscribe, like, share.
Like us.
Like us. If you want to keep up with the update shows, definitely follow Neil on YouTube. And you'll keep up with Breaking with Brent, the shows, my traveling segments, coffee time, you name it, everything's there. Fabulous guests that I have on a regular basis. And hey, if you would love to be a guest, reach out to Neil. What is your website again, Neil?
It's www.daddybentlegs.com.
That's right, and there's a tab right there, and you can say I would love to come on as a guest.
On the media, there's a media tab.
Yeah, there's a media tab there. So if you'd love to come on and be a guest, or you have ideas that you would love to throw our way, definitely let us know. There's opportunity for people to participate on our show for sure. I'd love to have you on. And,
Tom Puxon, we should say Tom Puxon is coming on tomorrow.
Yeah.
Talking about basic income, so that'll be a good show.
Yeah, it's always great having Tom coming on, he's full of knowledge regarding basic income, and get rid of these other programs that are so outdated. Give everybody a basic income. In the meantime, while basic income is getting developed, which I hope that's what the government's planning on doing, because everyone's going to need this going forward. and it can be paid for. Tom will talk more about that on the next segment. I won't take all his talking points away, because he's the expert when it comes to that. I think ideally these programs are so outdated. We need to raise them in the meantime, and like Jeff said, we need to get them up to a level where at least that level, then we can work from that point. There's so many angles to go upon, but anyway, keep tuned in on all the updates coming up on our shows. There's always moving parts of the puzzle, and you want to be part of that puzzle, tune in. And as part of our allies group, and we keep growing, right?
Yeah.
So thank you, everyone.
We'll hit 1,000 subscribers at some point.
Yeah, we will. We will. And we're getting there. Thanks, everyone.
Okay, thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.